Let's talk about war crimes and the Chinese Communist Party in 1948, because I just need to tell you guys what I found out about. Honest to God, the research I've been doing for my next podcast episode has taken so many twists and turns that I never see coming. So essentially, I just started off wanting to do an episode on the sinking of the SS Kiangya during the evacuation of Chinese nationalists at the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1948. That ship was widely reported in the press because it was carrying evacuees and it sunk, okay? And it was a disaster. Thousands of people died trying to escape, right? But because a lot of the surface research that I was doing, things that were told by other podcasts or YouTube videos or whatnot, were very surface. They were very short stories about the SS Kiangya. So I'm like, I'm going to dive deep and see if I can find anything. So I started pulling up old historical records, newspaper archives, and reports at the time of what was going on. And what was interesting to me is that there were a few reports from multimedia at the time in 1948 saying that a few survivors said that they saw 2 CCP boats come near them and throw explosives on board. So that perked my ears up a little bit, or my eyes. And then I found another article where one of the officials from the shipping company that owned the ship said he suspected sabotage. But then the shipping company very quickly recanted that story and said they believed it was an accident. It must have hit a Japanese sea mine left over from World War II, which wasn't unheard of. There were indeed leftover Japanese sea mines around that area left over from World War II. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let's dive down a rabbit hole. And here I am 5 days later with a 3-part series because holy fucking shit. But here's the thing. Yeah, I pulled up old historical archive and I see that some of them, a few days after they report on the SS Kiangya, say that, oh, there's new reports coming out of China that a month ago, another ship exploded carrying evacuees and killed 6,000 people. And I'm like, wait a minute. If that ship was carrying 6,000 people, that would literally be the second deadliest maritime wreck of all time. The first one being 9,000 during World War II, okay? Of all time. And you're telling me the world doesn't know about it, doesn't talk about it. That's kind of a big thing, right? So I start looking into it, and it appears that it was a merchant ship that China never released the name of it in its reports, and very little seemed to be known about it. And from a media standpoint, it seemed really interesting to me that China made a point to release this 6,000 ship sinking as an afterthought a month after it sunk, alongside them announcing this smaller ship that sunk. And I was like, I'm curious. Let's see what I can find and see what's up with that. But it was difficult because China never released the name of that ship carrying the 6. By the way, they were all soldiers. It was the 52nd Division Army. They were of the KMT Nationalist Army. Okay, so they were retreating soldiers. Problem is that unlike the SS Kiangya, China never released the name officially of that ship. So I happened upon these beautiful, amazing men in Australia who are literally experts in Chinese coastal shipping history. I'm not kidding. They published books in the 70s and they keep entire records of all the fleets ever owned by China. What are the chances? So I started going through all of their files, literally line by line, every single ship name from around that time, because these guys keep meticulous records. And I wasn't really finding anything. I have like thousands of ships listed. So I finally just emailed them and I asked them, hey, here's the story of this ship that went down. Do you guys have any idea what ship it might be? You guys, I'm not even kidding, from Australia. They got back to me within like, I would say 20 minutes. And they're like, yeah, that's the Hsuan Huai. And they linked me to the fucking boat that sunk allegedly with these 6,000 troops. And I was like, holy shit. So now, armed with the name of that ship, I started searching. And would you believe it? There is an old documentary where they are interviewing one of the old, he's an old timer now, or at the time, this is an older documentary, interviewing one of the old members of the CCP army. And he talks about that ship. And in fact, there is footage of the ship I've been looking for on fire. But listen to what he fucking says, because I was not prepared for this. The 52nd Division Army started to retreat because CCP had overtaken Yingkou. The CCP, he says, was actively trying to sabotage ships of evacuees, especially if they contained military personnel, which brought me back to my original theory that the SS Kiangya did not hit a Japanese landmine. It was intentionally exploded. We'll circle back to that later. He said that as the 52nd Division was trying to load up on the ship, there were 6,000 men. He said about half of them had made it onto the ship when they turned around and started firing on their own guys on land. Now, I don't know why. One theory from a friend of mine who was PSYOPs in the army is that those guys who boarded the ship and then turned around and started firing on their own guys had possibly already themselves defected to the CCP, and this was a planned attack. Which would make sense because this is what happened next. According to the soldier from the CCP, is that they came upon the scene and were like, jackpot. His words that were translated were, we exploited the situation. So the guys that were on ground being fired at also started to return fire to their own fucking dudes, right? So the CCP soldier said to the guys on the ground, hey, those guys are scum, come fight with us. Fight with us, we'll fight. We'll kill these guys, basically, and all of these, your people are traitors. Come with us. And they did. So the possible theory here is that those guys who had already defected to the CCP went aboard, and then turned around and fired on them so that the other guys from the existing CCP army could come up and say, look what they're doing, come with us. So that's one theory. Now here's the important thing, is that by this point there was a division of the 52nd Army called the 58th Regiment. And unlike the rest of the 52nd Army, the 58th had trained with the Germans during World War II. So they were considered the cream of the crop of the 52nd. And the 58th, just days to weeks earlier, had already mutinied and joined the CCP. So that was a huge blow to the nationalists, because some of their best guys just fucking turned against them. So here comes the CCP, and as the rest of the 52nd is retreating and turning on each other, the CCP is like, bet, come with us. So what went out in the media a month later was that all 6,000 of those men died in this shipwreck. Chinese officials reported that the reason that it exploded was because a boiler exploded, and since there was ammunition on board, the whole ship exploded and all 6,000 men died. When really it was, unfortunately, a few thousand did die, but the rest all switched over to the CCP party. I'm wondering now, is that why they waited a month to report on this ship? Because China was still asking other countries like the United States for aid to fight this war. In fact, it would be just about a week after this report came out that Chiang Kai-shek, the head of the Nationalist Party, would send his wife, Sung Mei-ling, to America to meet with Truman to ask for more aid. And so I don't know if perhaps they were, one, wanting to save face, number two, wanting to not be truthful about how much troops they had left. And so maybe that's what was going on. I'm so excited to do these episodes because I want to show you guys all of the pictures I found, all of the old military telegrams I found, the footage and stuff. I'm really excited, but also I'm like, I almost don't know where to start putting these episodes together because there's so much going on. I'm very excited though. Also, I'm a maritime history enthusiast. I am not a Chinese history expert or a military history expert. So I am working with both an awesome woman who is from China, and she does a lot of education on China, and as well as consulting with some of my loved ones who are or were in the military, just to make sure I'm not missing anything or I'm getting anything horribly wrong. This is always a learning experience. So experts out there, I welcome your feedback and your thoughts and your opinions because I'm still learning too. So thank you, but I'm really excited. Stay tuned for the episodes on my podcast.